Welcome to History Happy Hour. I'm your host, Jess Edberg, Executive Director of the Dorothy Molter Museum, and I'm here tonight to educate, inspire, and entertain you with a pint-sized historical tale related to Ely area history and about the time it takes to drink a pint of ale. If you are new, the history I share is not a deep dive, rather it scratches the surface using publicly accessible resources. History Happy Hour is supported in kind by all of these wonderful supporters, and it would not happen without them. Additionally, if you know someone who may like this programming, all seasons are available online via YouTube under the Dorothy Molter Museum's channel, as well as a first season in podcast form on your favorite platforms. And each program has a curated playlist for each topic available on Apple Music. Holiday Carols, the harbinger of a unique time of year where the shorter days are brightened with sparkling snow, twinkling lights, and a sense of something bigger than oneself. As you may know, this time of the year holds an incredible number of cultural celebrations, each with their own traditions and festivities honoring heritage, faith, rebirth, and charity. You may recall December 5th is Krampusnacht, gathering up the naughty children in preparation for St. Nicholas Day on December 6th. Hanukkah, the 8-day Jewish festival of lights. The uniquely American holiday of Kwanzaa, December 26th through January 1st. Boxing Day and St. Stephen's Day on December 26th. Omisoka, December 31st, one of the most significant dates on the Japanese cultural calendar. Christmas Day on December 25th. And let's not forget Cyber Monday. Many seasonal holiday traditions that are well known among the general public today originated as ancient pagan festivals and celebrations. A popularized connotation of paganism is that its followers are heathens who are uncivilized and non-religious. Both historically and today, paganism is an earth-based spiritual belief system where reverence for nature is practiced and multiple higher beings or gods are recognized and or worshipped. It's often a polytheist system. In basic terms, anyone not practicing a monotheistic faith like Christianity, Judaism, or Islam is considered pagan. Examples of major polytheistic faiths include Egyptian, Roman, Greek, and Norse religions. Examples of modern pagan movements include Wicca and Druidry. The word pagan is derived from the Latin paganus, meaning countryside dweller, and was co-opted by Christians to refer to any people who were considered non-believers, often those in rural communities, a religious version of city mouse meets country mouse. Beginning in the 4th century, as Christianity grew more powerful, the word pagan was often used as an insult or accusation. Pagan concepts, particularly symbolism and animism, were often incorporated into other religions. Paganism represents a diverse array of earth-focused spiritualities, many of which were absorbed and transformed alongside major world religions, particularly Christianity, which strategically integrated them. Not to diss the evolution of Christianity, but it was much easier to gain believers when they recognized spiritual symbols, practices, and rituals from familiar belief systems. The Germanic tradition of Yule centered around the winter solstice, the longest night of the year in December. 12-day celebrations marked the year's darkest point and the sun's rebirth with a Yule log representing the sun's power, and grand feasts with toasts to gods and the human ancestors, offerings, decorations with evergreens and candles, gifts, and of course, songs. Romans had similar winter celebrations. Saturnalia was a week-long festival in December honoring the god of agriculture and abundance, Saturn. Opalia, in honor of Ops, Saturn's wife, the goddess of plenty, wealth, and agricultural resources, and Brumalia, during the winter solstice, honoring the gods of death and fertility. All featured feasts, gift-giving, merrymaking, and other activities that overturned normal social order. After the 6th century, these pagan events became uncommon, and celebrants were ostracized by the Christian church, even though these festivals influenced Christmas traditions, including the singing of songs part. While ancient pagan songs existed, many didn't survive whole through history. This oppression of spirituality resulted in ancient songs being repurposed for dominant religious faiths. The first song believed to be written and put to music regarding the birth of Christ and considered the oldest known Christmas song is the Angel's Hymn by Saint Telesphorus of Rome in the 2nd century. Telesphorus was also the 8th pope and was murdered by heretics and is the only 2nd century pope listed as a martyr in written records. The song he wrote was lost, but it's believed to have inspired other songs, including Gloria in Excelsis Deo and Angels We Have Heard on High. The 4th century seemed to experience a rebirth of what we would call Christmas songs when the Latin lyrics to the poem Jesus, Light of All Nations were translated and reworked by French Bishop Hilary of Poitiers, who was also canonized after his death. This image highlights how he drove out the snakes on an island off the coast of France. This may sound familiar if you've seen the St. Urho's Day program from March 2024, where St. Patrick also drove snakes out of Ireland. And we all know that it wasn't snakes. Interestingly, Hilary was born into a pagan family. His parents were well respected, and Hilary was raised pagan with an emphasis on education. As he grew in his studies, he abandoned his Greek philosophies and converted to Christianity, eventually getting the nickname of the Hammer due to his vigorous battles against heretics. Much of the oldest Christmas music is derived from other 4th century Christian hymns written in Latin, then applied to new lyrics. However, when it comes to the singing of these songs, much of it occurred in the liturgical setting. Christmas caroling traditions or singing outside of the church in groups largely started 1300 years after Jesus died, and many popular carols we know today are products of the medieval era that were modernized in the Victorian era. The most familiar songs to us are only 200 to 300 years old. Part of this is due to the 17th century Protestant post-Reformation laws banning Christian celebrations, including Christmas and anything to do with it, like singing carols. Fun fact, it's not clear whether the English word carol derives from the French carol, meaning an old type of round dance accompanied by singing, or the Latin carula, meaning a circular dance. Regardless, circle dances with a song are found all around the world, and incorporating the Christian hymns into the practice was part of recruitment as well. Today, the term carol is synonymous with songs sung at Christmas time and instantly conjures holiday imagery. In 1644, during the 30 Years' War, Protestants in England decided that Christians and all they practiced were illegal. Christmas and almost every other Christian festival almost disappeared, and although the laws only lasted a few years, the loss of cultural knowledge of Christmas traditions and songs in Protestant regions was immense. Whereas Orthodox Christians living in Slavic countries like Bulgaria, Ukraine, and Romania have better records of cultural Christmas carols originating in the same way, but branched away from non-Orthodox belief systems and are not as common in the United States. Thankfully, several folks had the good sense to record in writing both the music and Latin lyrics of holiday songs in the Middle Ages. Dating back to the 4th century in modern-day northern Spain and written down in the 10th century, Of the Father's Love Begotten is likely the oldest known Christmas song that is still performed by a few churches, but definitely not well known. The 12th century French song, The Friendly Beasts, is still regularly sung today and is considered a traditional Christmas song. I mean, who hasn't heard the lively 1988 Peter, Paul, and Mary live version? In 1582, Finnish university student Theodoricus Petri compiled a songbook containing 74 Latin church and school songs to preserve some ancient hymns and songs of his fatherland. This songbook, the Pious Ecclesiastical and School Songs of the Ancient Bishop, more commonly called the Pie Cantiones, helped both document early carols, but also inspired a few of the oldest carols you may be familiar with. Like Good King Wenceslas, it was derived from a 13th century Finnish Easter hymn called Tempest Adest Floridum, or The Time is Near for Flowering, that was in the songbook. The classic song we know today has nothing to do with Easter. In 1853, a guy named John M. Neal took the music and wrote a new story about King Wenceslas from Bohemia, who braved harsh winter conditions to give alms to a poor peasant on the feast of St. Stephen, traditionally held on December 26th. Although the song is popular, academics have been critical of Neal's decision to put his own lyrics over the original melody. Another potential song from the 13th century that I'd be surprised if you'd never heard is Adeste Fidelis, or O Come All Ye Faithful. The song's lyrics' origins are disputed with several credited people, but the modern version was popularized by English Catholic priest Frederick Oakley in 1841. If you have ever been to a Christian Christmas Day Mass, you are likely familiar with the song Christ Was Born on Christmas Day. This joyous and upbeat tune's origins are difficult to date, but the oldest written copy was in the Moosburg Gradual of 1360. The Moosburg Gradual is a medieval Bavarian manuscript written by various musicians and scribes containing Gregorian chants, liturgical music, and unique popular songs for church mass. Notable for its early settings of Christmas carols like Resuene in Laudibus, Latin for resound in praises, which is a 14th century Christmas carol widely known in medieval Europe. Another recognizable carol is God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, a traditional English Christmas carol that is believed to have originated as a folk song in the 16th century, being sung for hundreds of years before being printed in William Sandy's publication, Christmas Carols, Ancient and Modern. Okay, so maybe not all of these ancient carols sound familiar. How did we get from the 13th century carol Between the Ox and the Gray Donkey to the 1979 hit Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer in celebrating the birth of Christ? You can thank Charles Dickens and the marriage of Princess Victoria and Prince Albert. Seriously. When a little novella titled A Christmas Carol was published in 1843, the cautionary tale of greed and lack of empathy popularized themes of family, generosity, charity, and goodwill around Christmas time. It breathed fresh air into what had been a fading holiday, with Dickens' snow-covered landscapes and loving family dinners at the Cratchits, in spite of their hardships. The concept of Christmas spirit defined the Christmas season as a time for good cheer, kindness, and togetherness. Social commentary on child labor and class divides notwithstanding. If it's been a while since you've read A Christmas Carol or seen the multiple film and theatrical productions of it, Northern Lakes Arts Association has one more weekend of performances coming up. Just a few short years later, in 1848, Princess Victoria, Prince Albert, and their children became the first lifestyle influencers when the Illustrated London News published a drawing of them standing around a decorated Christmas tree with all the trimmings, a tradition that Prince Albert celebrated during his childhood in Germany. This viral trend had almost every home in Britain staged with a tree bedecked with candles, sweets, fruit, homemade decorations, and small gifts. It didn't take long for the commercialism of Christmas to gain traction and speed. Christmas card industry exploded. The Christmas cracker was introduced, delighting children with a snapping sound that revealed delicious sweets. And decorating the home, both inside and out, was fashionable. And although still a traditionally Christian holiday, this shift of Christmas from a predominantly religious observance to a family-centered festive celebration is referred to as the Victorian Christmas Revival. And although caroling had never completely died out, it became a much more integral part of the holiday season, with an explosion of new songs highlighting the emphasis on community engagement and seasonal cheer, introducing the idea of secular Christmas songs like Jingle Bells in 1857. Some of the old standby holiday carols that were either newly minted in the 19th century or revised versions of the old stuffy Latin hymns include Joy to the World, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear, O Holy Night, Angels We Have Heard on High, We Three Kings, O Little Town of Bethlehem, and Away in a Manger. One of my favorites is the 12 Days of Christmas. It has everything. It originated in the Middle Ages to incorporate medieval English religious feasts and pagan winter celebrations, was transformed into a song with music, evolved into a children's memory game, was standardized as a Christmas-tide song in 1909, and escalates really quickly with nonsensical fun and is all about birds. Okay, at least this is a very heavily discussed conspiracy theory on a variety of platforms. Evolutionary ecologist, ornithologist, and parrot researcher and scientific writer who goes by the pseudonym Girl Scientist lays it all out in a December 2023 Forbes article, although there are a lot of articles about this topic on the interwebs. The obvious birds gifted in the song are identified by name: partridge in a pear tree, two turtle doves, three French hens, four calling birds, originally collie birds, referring to the color of the European blackbird, six geese a laying, and seven swans a swimming. The rest of the birds are a little trickier to identify if you're not familiar with one, types of birds found in Europe during the Middle Ages, and two, types of birds commonly served as food in the Middle Ages. Five golden rings refers to the ring-necked pheasant, which was introduced widely throughout Europe from China during Roman times. Eight maids a milking is believed to refer to the cattle egret, which tends to live around cattle, eating the insects bothering them, served, fried, and often with tomatoes. Nine ladies dancing is debated to be one of three birds: the northern lapwing, the cormorant, or the Eurasian crane, all of which have elaborate mating dances and, of course, were all eaten in the Middle Ages. 10 lords a leaping are gray herons, very popular with medieval European nobility, roasted without their skin and served with highly spiced sauces containing cinnamon, ginger, and galangal, a root in the ginger family that presumably disguised the taste of the flesh, which was rumored to be quite fishy. One would guess that 11 drummers drumming may be referring to woodpeckers, but there is no evidence that people ate them. There is evidence that the common snipe was served cooked whole, with their insides scooped onto a piece of bread and eaten alongside the rest of their flesh, or the red grouse. Girl Scientist speculates that the grouse is the more likely bird due to the difficulty in hunting snipes, as many of you likely understand from the childhood rite of passage that is going on a snipe hunt. And last but not least, 12 pipers piping is a bit on the nose here if you know birds, with the common sandpiper as the obvious pick, having been eaten kebab style by holding their beaks. However, any shorebird may have been in mind for this gift. Fun fact: golden plovers were served in the first meal on the ill-fated Titanic. Another oldie but a goodie that often confuses children like me who wonder, why are we waffling? Here we come a wassailing, also called Here We Come a Caroling and Here We Come a Christmasing. It was likely an old poem or song reworked for modern use in the mid-1800s. It was a classic example of the Victorian Christmas revival period when the values of generosity, charity, and good cheer were in favor, and the Christmas spirit moved the upper class to open their wallets. In the Middle Ages, a wassail was a reciprocal agreement between feudal lords and their peasants that was distinct from begging, and typically on the 12th day of Christmas. Peasants would visit the manor where the lords and ladies provided food and drink. In return, the peasants would give blessings and goodwill for the new year, as stated in the lyrics. We are not daily beggars that beg from door to door, but we are friendly neighbors whom you have seen before. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassail too, and God bless you and send you a happy new year. In the 19th century, this tradition continued with orphans and beggars offering to sing good cheer and tell a fortune in exchange for a drink of wassail punch, a pork pie, or a penny. What is wassail punch and how do you make it? This tradition is called house wassailing. There is also orchard wassailing or tree blessing that was common in cider-producing regions of England and traced back to early Greece and Georgian customs. The ritual involved singing to the trees in the orchard to awaken the apple trees, bless them for a good harvest, and scare off evil spirits. Speaking of misheard song lyrics, do you ever wonder why in the song I'll Be Home for Christmas they talk about putting presents on the tree? Another German Yule custom was giving small gifts that were hung on the branches of the evergreen Yule tree. When the Victorian Christmas revival happened, the presents got bigger as commercialism of Christmas grew, and these larger and heavier gifts were wrapped and placed under the tree. The song was inspired by horrors of World War II in an effort to bring comfort and boost morale. When Bing Crosby recorded the song, it was an instant success, hitting the charts and becoming a top request at USO shows for troops. However, the BBC banned the song from broadcast as management felt the lyrics might lower morale among British troops. Another holiday song that gained immediate popularity during wartime was White Christmas. Written by Irving Berlin in 1940, it debuted in the 1942 film Holiday Inn, starring Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire, which aged like warm milk due to the black-faced minstrel scene by the two actors. The song itself holds the world record as the best-selling single worldwide with 50 million physical copies sold. By 1948, Irving Berlin had developed a movie based on the song, and when it was finally produced in 1954, White Christmas drew universal acclaim after premiering at Radio City Music Hall. It brought together powerhouse singers Bing Crosby and Rosemary Clooney and accomplished dancers Vera Ellen Rowe and Danny Kaye, and you can watch it tonight on the big screen. White Christmas is playing at Ely's Historic State Theater tonight at 7 and is sponsored by Dr. Crystal Chop. Sure, some of the gender dynamics are way out of date and problematic references to a quote simpler time didn't age well, but it's free and you're sure to experience a sense of nostalgia. In the early 20th century, the music industry was one of the few industries not saturated with anti-Semitism. Irving Berlin was of Jewish faith and was one of many Jewish individuals who wrote some of America's most beloved secular Christmas songs, further supporting and reflecting a shared American holiday experience for all, Christian or otherwise. These songs include, but aren't limited to, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, The Christmas Song, Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Let It Snow, It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, Winter Wonderland, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, sung by 13-year-old Brenda Lee, A Holly Jolly Christmas, Silver Bells, Sleigh Ride, Santa Baby, and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Let's not forget a well-meaning song that was recently canceled due to its rapey lyrics, Baby It's Cold Outside. Written in 1944 by Frank Loesser as a novelty duet for himself and his wife to perform at parties as guests left, it was popularized in the 1949 film Neptune's Daughter and viewed as a feminist anthem about female sexual agency. However, today it's interpreted as more of a predatory interaction of a man trying to bypass consent through coercion and potentially drugging with the lyrics, "What's in this drink?" Other controversial songs include I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, which has its own urban legend of being banned by the Catholic Archdiocese of Boston, Santa Claus and His Old Lady by Cheech and Chong, and Santa Baby that overtly sexualizes Santa Claus, which some people do find Santa Claus sexy. How many of you are still in the running for Whamageddon? It's the seasonal challenge to avoid hearing Wham's song Last Christmas between December 1st and midnight on Christmas Eve, forcing you to up your holiday music vigilance. One of the most funny but not fun transformations of a holiday song is of Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas. It has become the topic of innumerable memes heralding the dreaded holiday season with shopping crowds beginning the day after Thanksgiving. Being one of the most well-known Christmas songs of all time, it's a repeatedly played song in retailers and on radio stations alike the minute the doors open on Black Friday. However you choose to celebrate this holiday season, there is no shortage of musical options to match your holiday mood. From songs about spending Christmas in prison, to an alien visiting the birth of Jesus, to peaceful classical instrumentals, to traditional carols, there is a song for everything and everyone. I've even curated a playlist of wildly varied holiday songs for you to explore and sample. But my wish for you this holiday season is to have good cheer and be merry. Local history is our shared history, and your engagement with this topic keeps it alive. Thank you for being here, and special thanks to our in-kind supporters who make this program possible and a success. Please join us in the new year to continue to be inspired to learn more about our shared history.